What is schlock? In its simplest and most definable terms, schlock is something of low quality, something that's cheap and to some extent trashy.
My God, what are you doing?
For whatever reason, this slang term caught on for describing art. Cheaply made movies, albums, and commissions would be called schlock. The term, although having a directly negative meaning, isn't always used in such a way. Some use it as a way to describe films that are, for all logical purposes, not good, but that they enjoy regardless. A great example of schlock, in its most pure essence, would probably be The Room.
People are very strange these days. I used to know a girl. She had a dozen guys. One of them found out about it, beat her up so bad she ended up in a hospital on Guerrero Street.
What a story, Mark.
This film is a spot-on representation of schlock, because it's nonsensical and quite possibly one of the most insane movies I've ever watched, but I still love it. Another thing to note on the topic of schlock is that it's only schlock if the film is unaware or giving the illusion that it's unaware of its own stupidity. And even though The Room is a perfect example of schlock, it has almost nothing to do with the following films. Because schlock can be in any genre and any time. As long as art exists, so will schlock. Enter 80s action schlock. If you're at all familiar with movies, you're probably aware of this action movie era of the 80s that was mostly shaped by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And while a lot of these movies were pretty good, there was still a decent amount of schlock. Movies like Big Trouble in Little China, Bloodsport, Total Recall, and most of all, Cobra.
Society is breeding a new kind of criminal. It's also breeding a new kind of cop. Meet Cobra. He does the job nobody wants.
Did you use unnecessary deadly force?
I used everything I had.
Stallone is Cobra, the strong arm of the law.
This movie is not good, but it is really funny and enjoyable in a really weird way. Even back in 1986, when movie sensibilities were way different than they are now, people still criticized Cobra. The LA Times famously said, "Cobra's pretentious emptiness, its dumbness, its two-faced morality make it a movie that begs to be laughed off." So, what's so special about this genre? I don't understand why, but it's really fun to watch. And in some ways, I think these schlockful films have inspired others. Cobra definitely did. With a $25 million budget, it would have to do extremely well at the box office to get its money back. And boy, did it do that, making nearly $160 million worldwide. Now, using our technical film brain, we can realize that if I subtract the budget from the $160 million box office, we get a profit of $135 million.
Here comes the money!
Did someone say
Cobra. It's no surprise then when you learn that many of these films have gained cult status. Kung Fury is largely inspired by these sorts of films, and unlike Cobra, it revels in its schlock.
Hey, you got a permit for those guns?
I've got your permit right here.
Something that separates it even further is its budget and production, as this film was largely funded by a Kickstarter campaign, and was filmed entirely in a storage garage. It had a minuscule crew, which most of the time doubled as actors.
That I got to shoot. Originally, I was just a Miami, douchebag on the street, running away from a robot. I let the guys know that I wanted to help out as much as I can, and so I told them that I like to do like stunt work and stuff like that. And they gave me the opportunity to be a lot of dying Nazis. So I get killed several times in this movie.
To top all of this off, it had a budget of $650,000, which in comparison to Cobra is utterly minuscule. So, How are these films each schlock in their own right? And what makes them different? Execution. Kung Fury does not take itself seriously, while Cobra is the complete opposite. It thinks it's badass, when in reality, it's ridiculously so. There's a difference in self-awareness between them, and this is what largely separates the films. In fact, this element is so relevant that some scenes will have the same purpose yet entirely different results. I need a snappy action scene where my character kills others in creative ways. I need jokes in my movie.
You did your best. I feel good.
Well, that's nice of you. You gonna be all right?
I'm gonna miss the dance finals.
Listen, can I get you anything?
Yeah. I would kill for some gummy bears.
Gummy bears.
You know what? Here, take my number. And use this phone to call me. It's a personal transportable cellular telephone. It features 645 channel capacity, 10-number speed dial, and an electronic security lock. This revolution in communication could make it possible for more and more people to have a phone in their car.
I need an over-the-top villain.
You won't do it, pig. You won't shoot. Murder is against the law. You have to take me in. If you can. Even I have rights. Don't I? Pig. Take me in. They'll say I'm insane. Won't they? The court is civilized, isn't it? Pig.
I was able to triangulate the cell phone signal and trace the caller. His name is Adolf Hitler.
Hitler? He's the worst criminal of all time.
Do you know him, sir?
I guess you could say that. In the 1940s, Hitler was a kung fu champion. He was so good at kung fu that he decided to change his name to Kung Fuhrer.
We are not so different, you and I. I mean, we've both got cool style, you know? We're red, you know? So that's cool.
And once again, the only place where these films deviate is how seriously they take themselves. Cobra sees itself as a film with a message, a pseudo-action / political flick about crime, and how we fight it, with far too much bureaucracy. Kung Fury does not have a message, but it does have a goal, and this is to be as completely insane and ridiculous as possible. One may argue that they're trying to be different movies through this, but I disagree. It simply changed its tone and intent. It still has the budding friendships, the underdeveloped romances, the huge explosions, the crazy kills, and the death puns.
It's breathing them! We are the future! No! Your history.
Thank you.
That's not to say they're exactly the same, though. Cobra has its moments of horror, its gripping shots, and most of all, its suspense. Whereas Kung Fury has absurdity, stunning VFX, and its goofs on other genre tropes. To conclude, both movies glorify violence, have hyper-masculine main characters, display over-the-top action sequences, and have offbeat comedy. They only differ in presentation. One presents a serious and gritty crime film, while the other mocks it respectively. They are bound only by their genre, and it's schlock. Thank you.